Good morning, everybody. My name's Emma, for those of you who don't know me, and I'd like to welcome you to today's session. This is the last part of our Oracle GRC event for those of you who've been following the series, and I'd like to thank all of you who've joined us on this GRC journey and hope that the sessions will make it easier to make some important decisions soon concerning GRC in your organizations. We would love to spend some time with you, so feel free to reach out, and we're here to help. So in today's session, we're going to be focusing on SafePaaS customers and how they can actually get more value out of the software that they own, help you understand the platform and the capabilities it offers. So if you do have any questions, which I'm sure you probably do, don't be scared to just pop those in the chat box, and we'll get to those at the end of the session. And we do have some exciting announcements at the end going into 2021. So without further ado, we have Jane and Adil here who are joining me today. So Jane, would you like to kick off?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. My name is Jane Jones. I'm the Global Alliance and Channel Manager here at SafePaaS. I've been with the company for the past 16 years, working with partners and customers globally to assist them with their different compliance initiatives.
And hi, this is Adil Khan, SafePaaS CEO. Pretty much Jane and I started together back in 2004-ish. Obviously, we were known as Fulcrum Way. We did a lot of Oracle GRC work, and we wrote a book on governance, risk, and compliance. And past few years, we rebranded around SafePaaS. So I'm here to talk about what our customers are benefiting from SafePaaS, and what more you can get out of it. As Emma said, what can you get out of these meetings? So there are some interesting announcements we've made to make it easier for a customer to get more out of SafePaaS, and I'll be glad to assist Jane with those details around those announcements. So I'm here in a supporting role for Jane. Go ahead, Jane.
Okay. So let's go ahead and get started. So what I would like to do is just walk you through the SafePaaS platform of products. As you can see, it's rather a busy slide. And I think the majority of our customers today are just focused on using the Access Pass product, specifically Policy Monitor, to look at segregation of duties across their, whether it's Oracle Cloud, Oracle E-Business Suite, or any other different ERP that they may be running today. But there is a lot more functionality within the SafePaaS platform that can actually bring value to your organization. So if we focus on, first of all, just the Access Pass set of building blocks, as you can see, it's made up of a number of different modules. We have some things that can help you through roles managers, so basically redefining and building new roles as you maybe go through an upgrade process, as you maybe go through a new cloud implementation. So SafePaaS has a library of content that we've actually built out, where we've actually have predefined roles that you can actually roll out as part of your implementations. Another hot area that seems to be emerging in 2020 is the whole area of provisioning. So under iAccess, customers actually use this product to actually provision users into their ERP environment. And you may have the big IDM systems such as SailPoint and Okta, but what we're finding is that these don't give the level of granularity that auditors are actually looking for from an audit point of view. So we have many customers that are actually rolling out iAccess on top of their IDM solutions to ensure that actually when they do provision users into systems, that they're provisioned with controls in place and no violations as well. We also are seeing, as more customers are looking at managed services areas, we're also looking at they're also adopting something called Firefighter, so they can give access to consultants and actually get that taken away at any given time. So this is like kind of the hot area that we have that's been emerging within 2020. On the right-hand side, we also have Monitor Pass, which is also one of the more popular products that we have here at SafePaaS. And within this product, you're actually able to focus on looking at configuration data, master data, so maybe anything that's changing in master data changes, actually monitor that. We're also able to monitor transactions that go through the different ERP systems, making sure that all the invoices, you're not paying duplicate vendors, duplicate payments through the system. So that's part of the MonitorPaaS platform. And then on top of this, we have something called ProcessPaaS, which basically puts controls around the key processes that you have within an organization, whether it be the financial close process, the hire to retire. So it's basically making sure that these processes are more streamlined, they're more automated, and they have the necessary controls in place to make sure that these processes can be accomplished in the most efficient way. I think, Adil, you've been working with a number of customers that are interested in these areas. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, so one of the benefits that customers are starting to recognize from working with us is, they've been using the SOD tools, capabilities SafePaaS had for many, many years. And that's great because, that's an audit checkbox. You got to have that. Many of our customers that were using Oracle GRC have moved over to SafePaaS because it offers not only just the detective controls, but as you said, Jane, the ability to remediate by using Roles Manager, which does simulation and redesign of the roles, and then to prevent the risk from iAccess, being able to prevent this, whether they're using the modern IDM solutions that you talked about, ITSM systems like ServiceNow and others, or they're just doing basic, provisioning using emails and forms. They're all looking to automate that because as most of us, our customers are working still remotely to a large extent, this capability is really getting a lot of attention. And then what I'm finding this year is that customers are doing more remote audits and their auditors are remote. And so they're relying more on data than ever before. And one of the things that's coming from our customers and their auditors is that, okay, that's great that you have this potential risk identified in AccessPaaS, but we also want to look at materialized risk. And that's where MonitorPaaS is getting a lot of attention because, as you said, we can use transaction monitor, configuration monitor, master data to really identify risk which has materialized in the company as opposed to just the potential risk of it happening, which is where SOD is, right? So I'll give you an example. I'm working with a client that have too many people that could create a supplier and pay a supplier. They're new to our platform. They've upgraded their Oracle e-business suite to R12, and their previous solution, I won't name what it was, wasn't giving them that coverage because some of the rules were not updated. So when they came over to SafePaaS, they suddenly saw all these people that had this risk, and their auditors, which is one of the big fours that we work with, came out and said that, well, what about during this period, did you have any folks that in fact created a supplier and paid the supplier? Because that would be something that would lead us to do more substantive testing, which, as we all know, can be significantly more costly and can blow your budget in these times. So we were able to show them that how transaction monitoring can help them identify a materialized risk by looking back at the potential risk that existed. So that's a real benefit for customers that, especially this year, that we have seen where they want to do a little more dependent on data and look at the results and validate them because they don't have the benefit of as much face time with their auditors or management that they've had in the past. Other customers are using this just to improve their control. So you and I, Jane, were working with a customer on the West Coast last few weeks where they've had some change tracking tools in the past, but they weren't providing them the full visibility on a supplier change tracker, which is a key master data element that's getting tested as we're onboarding new supply chains. We're adding more suppliers to adjust to this environment we're in a globe. So what these guys wanted to do is do a better job of tracking supplier changes, supplier bank account changes, and they weren't getting from their typical configuration management tools that they had in place. So we were able to provide them a solution that tracks every change that happens to master data. So if somebody changes a bank account and changes it back, they can track that. It's not just the last record, right? And then on ProcessPaaS, I'm really excited to, and we'll talk more about it. I don't want to take the thunder away from you, Jane, but one of the things I'm really excited about working on is the robotic capabilities that is coming to light with some of the key players in the market. That one of our customers is using Blue Prism, others are using UiPath, some are using Automation Anywhere. So those are kind of three major integration points that we'll be announcing more results to our customers next year. But yeah, process management has become even more important this year and continues to be a big demand for our customers that have baselined with SafePaaS. They put their access controls in SafePaaS. They're monitoring their process in SafePaaS using these tools on the right. Once they have that foundation in place, now they can go to the next level and actually embed the controls in their procurement process and their financial close process, leveraging the access and monitoring capabilities to really reduce risk and prevent risk, frankly. So I used to work a lot with Oracle GRC, and we got to work with Preventive Controls Governor. So in this new world, that is the equivalent of a Preventive Controls Governor, where we can embed controls inside a workflow. So those are some of the exciting areas on this platform that I'd like our customers to try out and to see if that can benefit them as well. Back to you, Jay.
Thank you. So and then just to finish this whole building block of products, it is a building block. It's more like Lego. So you are able to adopt the different modules, whatever basically is very important to your organization. But I think on top of all of this, we have something called Safesight, which basically gives you the predictive analytics, the key KPIs that management are looking for, the good reporting, the drill down capabilities, the dashboards that any organization needs to be able to instantly look exactly what's going on in their organization today. So this is just the overview of SafePaaS products. I'm happy to answer any questions that we have at the end of the presentation. So the next slide just features so SafePaaS is a multi-platform cloud architecture. As you can see, we work with all of the major ERP systems, including Oracle Cloud, JD Edwards, PeopleSoft, NetSuite, Workday, Salesforce, and then obviously on the left-hand side, as we said earlier, many companies are adopting IDM solutions like SailPoint, Okta, ServiceNow to do their provisioning into the ERP systems. But so we are platform agnostic. We do recognize that companies today are running these hybrid environments where they may be running one major ERP system for their financials, but then they may be running some specialized system for HR or for their sales, CRM systems, things like that. So SafePaaS has the technology that enables you to adopt this and actually go across any of the ERP systems that you may be running today.
Yeah, so just to add to that, Jane, I'm just kind of from my experience of working with customers being in the trenches, what I'm seeing is as customers are considering cloud, they're not just considering the same vendor they had on premise. They're looking for more where they can get value, because cloud makes it easy for you to subscribe and try out different services. So example comes to mind that one of our customers that's going live in the next couple of weeks, they have been using cloud ERP for some of their modules. They're adding more cloud. So they have 6,000 customers, which is one of the biggest cloud footprints that I've worked with. And I think from what I've heard from the Oracle folks, that's pretty good size, one of the higher end type customers. So this customer is rolling out Oracle Cloud with 6,000 users worldwide. And however, for HR, they've had Workday for some time. So when they looked at the options available in the market, they found that SafePaaS was the right fit, because we can not only help them mitigate the financial risk that's in their financial modules like general ledger, procurement, payables, and all those areas which impact financial statement, but also be able to mitigate the risk using their Workday application, because there's benefits, employee payroll information that makes up that goes to third party for processing payroll. And obviously, as I said, benefits, and then how those impact financial statements on the EBS side, on the ERP side. So, for example, if somebody could get access to employee bank accounts in Workday, can they go and change that bank account in suppliers in Oracle Cloud ERP? So those kinds of risks are unique that we're seeing that customers are coming to us and saying, okay, we are not just tied to one cloud service provider. We're going to have some things on premise, others will move to the cloud, and we really want a solution for the modern world that protects our risk no matter where it is. And so the processes are no longer just happening in one monolithic SAP or Oracle. They're going across multiple data sources, as we call them here at SafePaaS. And so unless you protect the process completely, the completeness test, as we say in audit world, you're not really effectively controlling risk in that process, whether it's procure to pay or financial close. So that's an example of how customers are leveraging SafePaaS. And if you have systems that you haven't really thought about covering, please reach out to us and see how we can maybe give you the ability to really protect risk across. Because if you don't do that, you can't really rely on the results and the financial statements, because your risk is still is unmitigated in parts of your information systems. And on the left side, this same customer example, I'll just extend to SailPoint. So they're also rolling out SailPoint to help them protect their data against identity governance. And we have done a lot of work this year, as we've done the past years, to integrate these IDM and what we call ITSM systems, where if the user comes in through an IDM system and they have already either requested their access through the IDM system. For example, SailPoint supports the ability to pull in the catalog of roles, same as ServiceNow, and then those go through an approval cycle. So what this customer wants to be able to do is take that SailPoint access request, process through SafePaaS, and then SafePaaS will return the essentially authenticated flag, whether this person that's asking for access violates any of the company policies around access controls. Because as we said earlier, Jane, I think you said that is some of these iAccess kind of fits in that gap that exists in the market, which is that these IDM and IGA systems and ITSM systems really are at the role level, so they don't go down to the privilege level, which is where the risk exists, and that's where they're failing audits. And so when you put SafePaaS in the middle, that becomes your vault of all audit controls, and the evidence is automatically collected, so you don't have to go do manual testing. And so this architecture, I know it looks really busy, but Jane, I think the customers that you and I are talking to can really flip the switches in our new technology on SafePaaS and integrate at the architecture level. It's all available to integrate with simply flipping switches on pre-built APIs and connectors and so forth that will enable them to really fit SafePaaS and apply the advanced controls that we bring to the table without doing any expensive, costly integration efforts. So, for example, we're able to connect with a data source that even we don't know about within a couple of weeks of effort, because we have the discovery capability. So yeah, that's kind of really exciting for customers that are looking ahead at this new way of doing business and readjusting their process and their user base in response to the current year's events and their business impact. So yeah, this would be a great way for you to try out some new capabilities in SafePaaS this year. Back to you.
Okay, next slide. So I think this one basically is from the product development team. So obviously we are very excited in terms of the new releases that are coming out. We do have some significant milestones from a product release point of view. So we're very excited in terms of what we're rolling out over the next couple of years. So Adil, if you could just walk us through in terms of the rollout of the different things that we're rolling out.
Yeah, so this is something that Henny Vermeulen, who's our CTO, and myself are spending a lot of time kind of planning based on the demand that we're seeing in the market and the feedback we're getting from our customers that are on this call and otherwise through our monthly, weekly, whatever the schedules are, where we're meeting with them. So this is really your, hopefully represents your needs more than anything else, and what you're telling us that you need out of SafePaaS. And if there are new things or no nuances you want to learn more, again, please reach out to us. So by no means this is etched in stone. We adjust, as you know, to our customers' needs. That's the #1 priority for us. So what we've done this year, as I mentioned, with COVID and everything else, people are working more remotely, and even if as they're moving back into the offices, it's kind of like back and forth. Some of our customers here in Texas are working 50% home, 50% on-site, or different kinds of ways they're doing. So identity governance has become really important this year, and that's where we've done a lot of the investments. So if you're not doing that single sign-on, SAML integration, and you have SafePaaS that's just sitting on the side, just doing monitoring, please reach out to us and check out what we've accomplished this year for you. This will make your life so much easier. Almost all our new customers that have come on board in the last 6 months have gone to a single sign-on mode with SafePaaS and really broadened their ability to work from anywhere. Now, we have added a number of capabilities if they're not already there. For example, multi-factor authentication for some of our banking customers that have very stringent capability around even single sign-on. And then the integration piece that I already covered with some examples, right? So whether it's Okta, OneLogin, Azure, I mentioned SailPoint, all of these modern IDM systems and ITSM systems for that matter are supporting SAML, right? So if you can log into your Okta, you can log into Azure, you can log into SafePaaS, and it's very seamless. So we have a customer case study we'll talk about a little later, but basically we have a customer that has SafePaaS as just one other logo on their Office 365, and they just click on it and they're right in. So that capability makes it really easy for you to protect your organization against risks, especially cyber threats and other risks that we've been talking about, data protection policies that are becoming more and more important as you're opening up these systems. And then by putting these controls on top of that single sign-on is really protecting the rest of the enterprise, right? So if you have, for example, I was working with one client, we did a POC with them, proof of concept, and they identified that they were using a tool that I won't name, but they was not doing the granular level testing. And this is a company in Chicago, and as soon as they connected SafePaaS in their provisioning cycle, they identified hundreds of possible risks in their access policy violations that weren't getting captured by their IDM system because it was doing role-based, catalog-based review in the user provisioning process. So you can't eyeball, these thousands of combinations, toxic combinations that create risk in the organization, which leads to things like creating supplier, paying them, or putting a journal entry that impacts your financial statement and disclosure requirements. So that's been the big success this year. It's being able to integrate into all the major IDM systems and enabling the identity governance, complete identity governance down to the fine-grained level with SAML capabilities that is now built into SafePaaS. So please do that. That's a no-brainer. There's no cost to you for doing that. So all you have to do is go into our company setup screen and enable SAML, and we'll provide you through our support desk the service you need to be able to enable that. And so that'll make your life a lot easier. And last but not least, you don't have to worry about password resets. Not that a lot of customers complain about that. We have the reset in our application for many years, but this will make sure everything is synced up. So ultimately you'll become more productive and safer. So that's just 2020. And then what I'm really excited about is the rest of the future ahead of us for our customers. As I'm talking to our customers, they're telling us, look, we want to be able to make our business more self-service because we don't know when everybody's going to be back in the same office. So we want to be able to have people remain productive. The first step was to just get them to be able to log in remotely, right? But now we're realizing, we still got to pay the suppliers and create invoices and enter journals and close books, and all of that stuff is now happening from many, many different places or don't have the benefit of the face time that we used to have. So, and that's maybe putting some stress on your current process. So what the next thing we're working on is our products that use our product is SafePaaS Platform that Jane also brought up on that slide. That platform is getting significant uplift. So again, a customer is middle of an upgrade where they're taking their old data probe objects and making them more functional, making the reporting a lot easier, and then enabling more people to create their own monitoring capabilities. So we've added some enhanced rule logic at the monitoring control level where me as accounts payable clerk can go in and monitor things from my home about certain types of payments to certain accounts. For example, if I'm doing a legal settlement, that's a recurring payment that I got to make every month against the legal, I need to have the contract number. And if the contract number is not there, I don't want to issue the check. So kind of a hold. So if there's a check going out without the contract number, I want to make sure I can put that on hold, and I'll be alerted if that's going out because it's going to screw up the accounting for my legal settlement. If there's any kind of expenses over a certain amount on certain types of accounts. As my time and expenses have changed, I'm not having as many people travel anymore, but people are buying more. Companies are helping their employees pick up desks and chairs and computers so they can be more comfortable working from home or wherever they are. So those kinds of expenses, right? How are they coming in? How are they getting categorized? So that's just one aspect that I'm hearing from customers, but there are many other activities that are changing or being adjusted for your business. So being able to monitor those activities is becoming really critical. Our customers are leveraging that transaction monitoring, configuration monitoring, and master data monitoring capabilities that Jane talked about. I've got a call after this with a partner that does a lot of cloud ERP systems, and one of the things that they want to be able to do is be able to use it for as a watchdog tool. So they onboard new suppliers, they onboard new customers. They want to monitor them against know your customer policies. So are we the customers we're onboarding? Do they have a cross check against an OFAC list? So for example, we can't do business with certain countries. Is anybody on that list? And so we have service providers like Dow Jones and others that you can integrate into SafePaaS, so you can validate both from a credit perspective, but also from a trade perspective. Are we okay to trade with a certain country, with certain groups? Those kinds of questions come up, and as part of that monitoring capabilities, we're enhancing and improving the product, so you can use SafePaaS more as a self-service tool and have your business automate more and more, so you can work from anywhere. So that's a great milestone, and our teams are busy working on it. You'll be hearing more and more about MonitorPaaS. If you haven't tried MonitorPaaS, please try it out. It integrates right into DataPro, but it gives you some really good alerts to help you stay on top of your business and your job. The one that we're working on also right now, but we'll be announcing it later next year, is integrating, as I said before, robotic process automation. I mentioned those three tier one partners that we have identified: UiPath, Blue Prism, and Automation Anywhere. And these are some of the companies that our customers have adopted for other areas of their businesses, and we're enabling our process PaaS capabilities, for example, the financial close automation. So not only can you pick up the integration that we already have, which, for example, with the ERP systems, but you can also integrate into these APIs with our PA systems. So if they're going out there and you have one of our clients is using a robot to do some of the reconciliation using Blue Prism. So we're doing a proof of concept with them right now, to where that our PA can report back to the financial close module and SafePaaS through an API when that task is completed, so we can check that off. So as you're working again from different angles, and there's pressure on the organization to do more with less, the automation becomes really important. There's also specific industries, for example, finance and insurance, that they're under significant stress to be able to perform more with less again, and automate some of those mundane processes of processing claims and ensuring that they're within your compliance requirements. So we're automating a lot of stuff beyond just the financial close, but that's a low-hanging fruit. So if you're doing a financial close and there's still that deadline of 5 days to close, you want to be able to automate as much of those steps as possible, so you can focus your finance department more on analysis and reconciliation type work, where you have added value as your balance sheet income statements getting adjusted or changes are needed, versus just running the checkbox where RPA can step in and help you. And the last but not least is kind of the 2020 plan. So this is like 2022. So this is where we're going to get more into the predictive analytics that Jane was talking about, to really monitor the processes continuously for optimization. So there's a number of predictive analytics tools available in the market that we integrate into and adopt into our platform. As the data is being collected on SafePaaS Platform, which is under the guidelines of our SOC 1 data privacy policies, that metadata can provide some intelligence to our customers based on how to benchmark their process against best practices and optimize it, and predict potential risk based on the hundreds of cloud customers that are providing that metadata capability. So that's more on that, probably be another workshop in the future next year. but I can share more details that far ahead. But as far as the 21, we have a pretty good plan based on inputs and surveys of our customers and the market needs. So we look forward to getting you to try what we have built this year if you haven't tried that already, and then if you need to check on what we're maybe give us more ideas. We're always looking for good ideas, so we will be glad to take those into our enhancement requests. As you know, we do probably more enhancements than any company with our in terms of our size and our focus area than anybody else. So this year we had I think close to 300 enhancements we made to the platform. So that's a pretty good record for enhancements, even if you compare to some of the market leaders like Salesforce or Amazon. So we're dedicated to continuing to keep the platform current, and that was one of our challenges working with Oracle GRC, because they just didn't get enough in the market soon enough. So we had sort of stepped in and built a lot of these enhancements out, and because customers need it. So anyways, that's my take on it. Jane, do you want to add anything to it, or share some more information?
No, I think that's a very good overview. Thank you.
Okay, so do you want to talk about some case studies, Jane? Some of your customers?
Sure. So as I said, I have been working within this space for the past 16 years, and I have been working with many companies who have many challenges in the compliance risk management space. And one of the big telecom communication companies out of Latin America and Africa, I was very fortunate to work with, and they had challenges around how they were addressing segregation of duties, how they were provisioning users within their, and they have Oracle e-business suite, but they have thousands of users spread across different countries. But they were also concerned about, so basically giving emergency access to people and making sure that was given on a timely basis, coming back. But then they also wanted to actually look at monitoring of the controls transactions within the Oracle e-business suite. So basically, this telecom company actually adopted SafePaaS, the suite of modules along with iAccess. So obviously with iAccess, it gave them the ability to provision users into Oracle e-business suite with the controls in place, the necessary controls, making sure that when the users were provisioned, they were given the right level of access. They were given the right level of responsibilities with no segregation of duty violations occurring. They were also able to automate the SOD remediation. So obviously, many companies today go through the whole remediation process, and trying to do it manually through spreadsheets is very difficult, very time consuming. So they actually adopted SafePaaS to help remediate the issues that they found within the Oracle e-business suite, which actually obviously saved them time, made the process more efficient, and then on an ongoing basis allowed them to streamline the process going forward. I think, Adil, you were very close to this account as well. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, I can share some of the best practices here, Jane. So, the customers want provisioning fast, right? Especially right now with, when they're rolling out any new technology, they want people to get productive fast, whether they're growing, whether they're resizing, restructuring. And that's change is the constant thing in today's business. We all know that. So being able to reduce that time improves productivity and benefits. And so the best practices that we're seeing appearing in that right column that we've talked about for this specific customers is that they want to be able to get people onboarded and get productive as soon as possible and eliminate all the manual steps that I talked about. So whether it's an IDM system that they were using in certain markets or a manual process, emails, sneaker net, whatever you call that. So that's the first lesson learned for us that you can apply to your business. So if you are doing manual provisioning in this day and age, you're certainly falling behind the curve. You're outside that bell curve. So try to improve that process, and this company is a great one to talk to. Jane's client, as she said, so be able to get that information. Also creating the policies, right? So we find that people have not updated their compliance policies, and they certainly don't apply those policies in the provisioning process. As I mentioned, a number of the IDM systems only look at the role level, and they don't actually apply any policy to that. So it's mostly eyeballing it. So a manager receives a approval request that says, hey, this person has GL access. Do you want to give them access to payables? And they'll say, yeah, they're in finance department, let's give them access. What that really means down at the privilege level is that now this person can create a liability. In other words, create an invoice and approve that. And then on the general ledger side, they can go and reverse that liability, thereby moving that liability off the balance sheet, which makes your financial statements inaccurate, right? So that level is not being captured. And so what this company did is revamp their whole access management process and put that policy at the point of provisioning. That's, again, a best practice. If you're not following it, you're going to end up paying 10x price in audits and remediation and all that happens year after year. So, people are looking for creative ways to get more productive, reduce cost. If you're an IT manager, you're under pressure to reduce the IT budget, and this, as you can see, pays for yourself, right? Pays for itself. They also were able to obviously automate SOD, and most of our customers are our customers because they are using our SOD tools. But however, one of the things they've done is they've actually made sure that all the roles are run through Roles Manager, which is one of the products Jane talked about on the product slide. And what that does, it simulates if the role has inherent risk itself, right? So if you're assigning people defective roles, in other words, roles with control defects, for example, a GL role where somebody could change a set of books parameter, create a new set of books, for example, as well as provide a journal entry, they could possibly put things off balance sheet, and that's going back all the way to Enron days.
Mm-hmm. No,
so those are some of the things I would like to share. Yeah, go ahead, Jane.
No, I was going to say, I think it's a great case study to highlight the challenges that they did overcome, and then going forward, the best practices that they have in place using the SafePaaS platform.
Okay, let's move on to the next one.
So I think the next customer is a Fortune 500 company, basically a manufacturer of military components, automobile components for the military. And they basically wanted to replace, so one of the challenges they have multiple legacy systems, and they wanted to replace it with one ERP solution. But whilst doing that, they also wanted to improve segregation of duty controls across their most important applications. But they also wanted, again, to maintain consistent roles to ensure that when they had roles that they didn't have inherent risks, no conflicting responsibilities, because they do have one of the large shared services models. So they wanted to ensure that people had the right level of responsibilities that enabled them to do their job, but it was also from a control perspective. So this company also adopted the SafePaaS solution. And I think, Adil, this is also another one of your clients that you could talk to in terms of how they did take SafePaaS and implement the best practices.
Yeah, so it's a fantastic story to tell, really. And if you're not doing automated control certification, this company, I put them as a thought leader. They have been doing it for 3 years now, 3+ years. And so when we talked to them in the early days, we were talking initially about SOD, and they're like, yeah, we need that, and we're going to check mark that. But what we really need on top of that is this IT general control, which is all about certifying users, because we have, as Jane said, users across many countries in the world, and we just pull our hair out doing certification. They were using spreadsheets, emails, and I think an Access database. And every time they did a certification, somebody would forget to certify on time, so they would miss the deadline for the audit, or they would just not know what to certify, or they didn't have their most recent extract from Oracle. So they were manually extracting data, sending it out to different divisions, putting it into an Access database, and then monitoring and providing that report. So a very fragmented process. And unfortunately, I see that more often than not, where a lot of our customers will go to the SOD because it's an easy solution to buy from a management perspective, that every auditor is asking for it. Your senior executive, CFO, controller says, I've got to have it, go buy the best solution you can find. And you're coming to us and buying the SOD solution, but the customer also gets certification capabilities as an SafePaaS customer, right? So with SafePaaS. So what they did is early on, they said, look, we got to make sure this is part of our UAT, this is part of our deployment. And we basically took our Access Monitor product, which is part of SafePaaS, and enabled that within a couple of weeks, right? So what that does is essentially takes a snapshot of all your users that have assignments in Oracle. In this example, it could be any ERP system, and that provides you a centralized audit trail of user activities and their current access levels, right? And so that's the best practices that leading organizations have been following for many years. And if you're doing manual certifications, you may end up with inactive users that are continuing to have access, which is a big no-no under cyber threat policies and data privacy policies today. So that's a kind of low-hanging fruit for anyone that are listening to this session. But what it also helps you do is do retroactive forensic analysis, and that's one of the best practices that this company's adopted. Which means that if somebody had access during a certain period and they're no longer here, but they're an event that occurred, now you have a centralized audit trail. So, and it's not within your ERP system or some access database, completely safeguarded on SafePaaS, which, as you know, has complete fault-tolerant systems, reliability, SOC 1 independent audits. So now you have maintained that centralized audit that you can come back 3, 4, 5 years from now and look back and use that data for analysis of who had what. And not to mention licensing, right? One of the complaints customers have right now is they're getting license audit from their suppliers. Whatever the motivations might be, but if you don't have people that need a module and you're not using it anymore, you're overpaying for it potentially, and that's low-hanging fruit from an IT budget perspective. You can cut that cost down. So those are some of the highlights of these best practices. You can read the slides, and they'll be made available. Certainly improving, just the controls management itself. It's not just about looking at a report. One of the things this company also realized early on is that, hey, we want to roll out these controls to the control owner, make the whole process more sustainable. So we don't want somebody to just download a spreadsheet and send it out to every control owner, because we have no idea what corrective action they've taken, or even if they've reviewed the report, right? Because you have just a report, but we don't know if this risk is gone. That's not documented. So by using SafePaaS, they're able to have their control owners actually put in whether they accept a risk or they want to remediate the risk through a corrective action, let's say taking user access away or rebuilding the role, as we talked about on the previous case study, or they just want to put a compensating control in. So this company has a registered number of compensating controls where they do give waivers to certain quote unquote super users. And those users can go in and then basically go and do their daily jobs in smaller business units, like entering a journal, posting a journal, because there's a compensating control that says, well, we have a reconciliation process in place that catches anything that is outside our variance. So yeah, I mean, there are a number of great areas where I've learned from this company. And one that's not listed here, but just come to my mind, I think it's really important. They also test activities, segregation activities outside of their ERP system. So if somebody does that manual reconciliation, they want to make sure that's not the same person that's entering that and posting their journal entry, because you can imagine that can become a major risk if I'm testing my own control. So they segregate manual activities, not just system activities. And that was a unique angle. We did a special case for them, and it's something that our customers are starting to adopt more and more as they're, again, moving the workforce around and readjusting it. So yeah, those are some of the examples, Jane, that just come to my mind right now. Anything you'd like to add, or should we move on to the next?
No, I think we just have one more case study that we'd just like to talk through. It's actually another one of my customers based out of South Africa, one of a large consumer packaged goods company. So again, they were concerned about basically privileged access, making sure that people were given the right level of access. They did have people that had been in the system for years and years and years that were still active in the system. They'd never deactivated them. And then when one of the big four audit companies came in, that's when they realized that they had a lot of issues around inactive users, and then also users that were given a lot of responsibility within the system upon the implementation of the Oracle Business Suite. So again, I think, Adil, you were able to work with this company down in South Africa, implement the SafePaaS solution, which they've been a customer now for the past 4 years. also using SafePaaS, again, around segregation of duties, but then also around privileged access.
Yeah, so that's an interesting angle, Jane. I agree with you that, but while SOD is a lot of times the entry point for our customers with SafePaaS, that's how we get introduced, because there's an audit finding, or somebody in management says, hey, we have this control missing, we need to go automate that. But so this is how this company, as you said, I remember working with the Big Four audit firm that was using our product, that does use our products to do audit in various parts of the world, including South Africa. So they did an audit, and they clearly had an audit finding, and this company came to us and said, hey, we understand the audit firm is using this product and we'd like to adopt it. And they looked at a lot of different products, and I recall that the reason they purchased our product was because of our roadmap, or their roadmap, to be more clear. Their roadmap was to be able to do other things beyond SOD, which was, again, a great example for you to pick, because this is an example of a forward-looking company that's not trying to get an audit box checked, but really trying to focus on improving a business in a very, I would say, a tough economy, because CPG goods. I mean, they have people that take breads to these tough neighborhoods where they get townships where they get like in Soweto, they get sometimes mugged because they only do cash business. So it's a difficult business. I really have a lot of respect for them and how they make money. So they're very forward-thinking organization. And so one of the things that they wanted to talk about was this privileged access management, because they need a lot of flexibility in their business. And if you're a CPG company, you realize how razor thin the margins are in certain products categories. So they wanted to be able to do a lot of analysis and be able to manage the emergency access, because they did have the need to have quite a bit of access where they had to rely on mitigating controls. So that's kind of a part of their roadmap that we helped fill. So the first step was to go get them up and running with SOD. That was a checkbox, really, and they did a great job with using Roles Manager and everything else. But one of the things they did on top of all that is the managing of their super users. We also call that firefighters. That's a branded product, but these were one of the first customers to adopt that back in the day. And one of the things they did with that capability is enable what we call fine-grained governance, right? And what that fine-grained does for them now is that it prevents them against security threats inside the organization. So they're able to look at the privilege level across multiple ERP systems or data sources if they want, and be able to then identify, what level of access these quote unquote super users really need versus what they have, and rationalize that based on their business need and other constraints. They were able to streamline their operations to mitigate these inherent risks in their ERP system by looking at hundreds of privileges. So, for example, in Oracle eBusiness Suite, which is one of the products they use for their financial reporting, has 40,000 some functions, which are essentially the privileges that can get granted to employees. They've identified that a big portion of their workforce was using these highly privileged access levels. So if you think about a company where many users have very limited privileges, like what we call birthright privileges, like if I'm an employee here at SafePaaS, I should be able to use iExpense to be able to put my expenses in, and iProcurement to order my laptop or whatever I need to get printer equipment for my office, home office here. So those kind of things we all need, right? But they don't necessarily create a lot of risk. But if your organization, especially in these times, is elevating access where people can get more and with less, and working remotely, they can do a job of two people. You're basically making them what we call a privileged user, right? And the risk with privileged users is that you're basically opening them up to more access policy violations. We obviously trust our people and we expect them to do the right thing. But whether it's by a mistake or just, it could even be fraud, just different things happen and times are tough. So you want to be able to avoid that and prevent that from happening. So as part of the SOD policy, they also added additional access controls specifically for these sensitive areas, which their auditors wanted to view as well. So being able to, ensure that people that did have this elevated access to do their job, that they're able to, make sure that they're doing the job that's assigned to them and not going in other parts of the system just because they have keys to the kingdom. So it's a common problem many companies have, but it's also the most overlooked area because, we all believe that we trust people that work here, and that's a great way to do that. We do the same here at SafePaaS, but when we go through our SOC 1 audit, we have to prove that that every access that I have that's granted to me is actually being used and it's not abused in any manner. So that's just the way audits work, right? So privilege access, again, a very manual process today. If you are using SafePaaS for SOD, think about adding firefighter, and that'll enable you to give temporary access to people with elevated privileges, and then record the activity performed, and then take that access away when that elevated privilege is set up, is completed. So if people are going in there setting up bank accounts and suppliers and so forth, because your primary supplier folks are not there in the procurement department, and you need to rely on some third-party outsourcing company or a partner or something, consultant you brought in, you can give them temporary access and the system takes it all away. And that's what iAccess does for these organizations. Again, authentication for every individual that gets access to that higher level privilege and a complete audit trail, that's again centralized. So that's a lot of different things that I've covered for this customer, but they are one of the most I said the ones that are utilizing SafePaaS more than I would say most of our customers. And we're excited about that because they keep telling us what we can do to improve, which we love to hear.
Okay, the next slide. So basically, this just is putting together a strategy for implementing enterprise controls, and obviously it's based on what we see, what we've learned from our customers, looking at your requirements first, understanding what's in scope, what's not in scope, and I think that's very important to understand initially exactly what is the scope of work that you're trying to achieve. And once you've defined that, I think you can build, obviously, a catalog of controls, and put together what kind of improvements you would like to get out of a system. And what's your vision? What are you actually looking to achieve going forward from a short-term perspective, but then also a long-term perspective? And I think just quickly, Adil, would you like to summarize anything here?
Yeah, Jane, so this is sort of, guys, I live and breathe. That's what I do here at SafePaaS more than anything else, is help customers adopt our platform. And that's where my 25 plus years of experience is in helping customers adopt technology, specifically Oracle Enterprise. And so this is, pretty clear to those of you that have been working around SafePaaS and our or Oracle and other partners that you adopted. I mean, it's a pretty no surprises here, but it's really what we call the SAFE method and what specific precautions we take and kind of enable the accelerators and other enablement to make this happen, accurately, timely, completely with a service and a smile. So that's really important to us. That's in a nutshell how we measure our own performance when we come and visit you and you give us the opportunity to help you. So again, I like to talk about real world examples. So I'm working with a company in Chicago area right now that is rolling out the solution, many different products, SafePaaS, across the globe. Their logo is on at least 2 billion products around the world. I won't give out their name yet, but hopefully they'll be in part of our webinar next year. So one of the things we did with this client is, they're in the process of getting ready for a SOX audit, and they wanted to make sure that SafePaaS is helping them along this journey. So the journey started about almost a year ago, in November, December last year, where they reached out to us and really clarified their requirements. And we took the requirements. Everything starts here with requirements and your needs, right? We don't start with a product in mind. We start with a need in mind. That comes from my background in being a solution provider. So, and that's our team here, right? So we basically said, okay, what are your needs? And then we talk about, okay, what are your constraints to get this done? The timeline, the budget, the block and tackle stuff. But then also, it's the people, who's available when, which business is more important than the other in terms of controls. And then the accelerators come in, like I said. So we have this catalog, and the customer really loved seeing that, that we have 1,000 plus controls already built for companies similar to theirs. So they essentially could pick off from a menu Of course, they have to rationalize the level of risk based on their specific business model in terms of likelihood, impact, etc. How is it compensated today? And that's where we come in, right? So we help them sort of fit that catalog into their business, but you've just taken away years of analysis and design work and replace that with something that's battle tested in the real world. And so that step 3 is very important. And that's really the accelerator that zooms you into the next level. And then so we come up with, as a result of that, step 4 is really we come up with the plan that based on the customer priorities, right? Whether it's based on the risk mitigation, whether it's other strategic priorities at the business level, executive level, we take all that into account and present customers and basically an outline of a plan that'll get them to finish, that get them to done, where the ROI objectives can be met. The step 4 is very important to us. And again, having that accelerator in step 3, really spending time with the customer, and I'd love to spend time with the customer face to face, which I'm trying to do over the web now, and I miss that. But we spend a lot of time just understanding what each customer's unique needs are, and then not cookie cuttering a solution, right? Even though that's the capability that exists here, but we like to take a more tailored approach and take a look at being able to pick out the controls that map to their needs, and from there basically executing the plan. So there's the short-term goals, the mid-term, and the long-term goals in step 5 and 6. Our short-term goals are generally, with this customer, are to get them compliant with their requirements for SOX. So being able to make sure the SOD is running across the globe, the 10,000 plus users are onboarded onto SafePaaS with one click, essentially. So, and they're using tools like ServiceNow, and being able to do these workshops. And today I'm doing a lot of those workshops remotely. So being able to conduct the workshop and then ensure that the objectives of each workshop are the deliverables and movement towards the deliverables to have that automated system that meets the objectives, right? So we've developed some new techniques to help these workshops be more effective, because we're doing all this work remotely. So doing a better job of coming into the deliverable phase, giving out, sharing things over the internet better, collaborating and so forth. So step 5 is really important because, the short-term success, typically our customers measure is based on the budget they allocate for the project, the scope they expect to get out of the project, in other words, deliverables and results from the project. So if it's a SafePaaS project, the results would be a clean, remediated, access control system, an ERP system, one or more. In this example that I'm thinking of, they have 8 different systems. So Oracle, Hyperion, Salesforce, many others. Mm-hmm. So those are all short-term goals, but they're staggered in this implementation plan. And we measure our success, making sure that the customers got the scope, the budget, and the timeline, of course. And those 3 are key parameters that this customer is testing us, like many other customer, and we're tracking that. We have dedicated project management resources to help them. We have a partner that is really well known in the industry that does a lot of GRC work, and they're enabled to work with GRC. We're very partner-centric, so we're supporting the partner to make sure they can be successful. And the last step is the long-term objectives, and that's the exciting part because, for example, I just had an ad hoc call with them yesterday. They're like, Adil, we're ready to go live. We understand the scope. That's what we want to do right now. But, we'd love to be able to bring in this additional information from ServiceNow in our firefighter setup, so that when the firefighter gets access, we can make sure the ticket is reconciled with ServiceNow. And so with the data probe capability that we have, we can very easily add a data source and be able to go down to the object and object item level from any of those data sources and say, okay, yes, we can bring that information. So tomorrow I'm going to have a workshop with them to talk about those long-term goals as beyond the current, project scope. How can we then make sure that in the future, when your firefighters come in, that they can essentially be, their activities can be reconciled against the ticket that was logged by someone versus what the work was performed in the source system. So that's an example of something where the customer is thinking ROI, they're forward thinking, and they're not just letting the box or compliance define their business. And that's what I love about companies that are not doing all the control work just to comply, but they're trying to do it to improve their customer service, their supply chain, their employee lives, and work life balance, whatever that is. So those strategic goals is where SafePaaS can really become a partner and help you achieve those goals.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So let's just, if we can just go to the last slide, we are running up against the time. I'd just like to quickly highlight that in 2021, we are announcing a new customer success program. It's available to all SafePaaS customers. You will have a dedicated account manager. We will walk you through that we have joint planning updates on the SafePaaS platform, your needs, things like that. And then we're also implementing something called Risk Rewards Program. So where you can actually have access to product development, where we can fast track enhancements requests. You will have full access to sandbox environments, quarterly calls with development team. You can also participate in the SafePaaS advisory board that is already up and running. So these are just some of the benefits that SafePaaS customers will be able to take advantage of. As I said, we are coming up to the top of the hour. I really appreciate you spending the time with us today, and we're very excited with what's going on at SafePaaS and the future that we have together. So thank you for attending today.
Thank you, Emma. Do we have any questions before we wrap up? I know we're over time, but maybe a minute or so.
We don't have any questions that I can see, but I'm sure the attendees do have many questions that you would like to ask either Adil, Jane, or myself. So feel free to reach out to us. We are here to help, and now that you've heard all the new and exciting features and services and capabilities we have on the platform, we hope you'll be a part of our roadmap with us. So
thank you
to everybody for joining today, and we'll hopefully see you again very soon.
Thank you.
So, thank you. Bye-bye.